By the way, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and put your company name into the chat and your core competency, 2 or 3 words that let people know what you do. And the reason this is important is because we have, over 200 people now. We'll easily have 300 people. Buyers come in, large primes come in. I have large primes contact me all the time asking for small businesses, and I can't really make all the introductions. I want to. Last week I was doing it, but if you're in here and they're looking, they're going to find you. So put your company name in and your core competencies. Okay. When you think about government contracts, I loop them into 3 different levels of wins or contract sizes: small, medium, or large. Small contracts could also be called micro purchase. That's an official term, right? Micro purchases that are out there. And these basically are $10,000 or below. The next level, medium, are between that micro purchase threshold of $10,000 up to $250,000. And so this is what we call the simplified acquisition procedure opportunities or threshold. And you'll hear me, that's what we're going to be talking about today. But I call those medium contracts, and large is anything over $250,000. Yes, I'm definitely simplifying the size, right? That's the whole point. I don't like to talk about exceptions. If you think about the medium-sized contracts, when I say simplified acquisition is $250,000 or less, there's exceptions, but who really cares about the exceptions? Let's talk about the 90%, the norm, right? And that's the way I like teaching, is really talking to you about what you'll encounter most out there. Again, today, I'm going to be talking about simplified acquisitions. How can you as a small business win your first government contract, prime contract, using simplified acquisition or under $250,000 level? Or if you're trying to get into a new agency, right? That's a big thing that when I work with customers, I talk about this all the time. Even largest do this. They just try to get in on any way they can, and they're off to the races. So today we're going to be talking about getting your first prime contract. One thing I wanted to preface, though, is I always teach, and if you haven't seen me teach this, that you should be spending your first couple of years getting subcontracts before you go after prime contracts. I'm not here to tell you you have to do that, but I'm telling you it's the easiest way. I spent 20 years doing this, and I watch small businesses all the time. Subcontracting is the fastest way, but when you're ready to get your first prime contract or push into a new agency, this is what we're going to cover on today. The easiest way to get that first prime contract in the federal market. Really quickly, I never even knew about simplified acquisition. When I was a small business owner, I only went after 7-figure sales, so $1 million plus. I just thought that was the norm, and partly it was probably who mentored me. But simplified acquisition, this idea of $250,000 less, those are really, really valuable to small businesses. So I'm excited to talk to you about it. I'm going to cover down in 3 main areas in simplified acquisition. First thing is, what are simplified acquisition procedure opportunities, or SAP opportunities, and why you should care about them. The second thing I want to cover down on is where you can find those opportunities. I'll tell you, and then I'll go in and I'll show you. So you'll want to watch that part where I actually go into a couple of tools and show you how I look for opportunities. Literally, what I'm going to show you today is what I show my customers, or what I do for my customers when I'm trying to help them get into a customer or into an agency. And then the third thing I'll wrap up with is, what do I do when I find these simplified acquisition procedure or SAP opportunity potentials? What do I do afterwards? Like, how do I begin to pursue it? And so that's what I'm going to wrap up with today. If that makes sense to you and you're looking to tap into the SAP opportunities using the simplified acquisition procedures out there, just put tap SAPs into the chat. First off, it'll let me know you're along for the ride and this is what you're here for today. Second is, it'll just be fun to look at later. Tap SAPs. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonnell. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we're going to have repeatable, predictable results. That's what I want for you. That's what I want for your business, and that's why I do this training. I have customers that are paid customers, but the idea of this training is to help those of you who can't work with me still learn the how of government contracting. And so I really dive deep into that. If you haven't already signed up for the subscribe to our newsletter, go ahead and sign up for that. It's Government Contracting Success newsletter. We're pushing 14,000 subscribers in there. It's the largest government contracting newsletter on LinkedIn, and it constantly is growing because all we provide in there is solid tips and information about succeeding in a federal agency as a government contractor. The second thing is, For all those who registered for training, we had over 200 people, I think, register for training today. I really appreciate that. When you register for training, first off, you're saying thank you to us. It's a very simple thank you. We appreciate that. And the second thing is when you register, LinkedIn puts the word out to others and it helps grow our network. I literally am training right now. And so for this moment, I'm not networking with anybody. I'm just teaching. I'm coaching you, right? But you have the opportunity to network with the 200 plus people who registered and the 360 people who are live right now in the chat one way or another, right? If you see people say, hey, I'm from Florida and I do cybersecurity or something, you're like, oh, cool, we're in cyber. Let's see if we can connect. So it's a network for you. And when you register for my trainings, you're really expanding that network. You're really helping all of us build the network and meet more people. The last thing is, if you're not, make sure you're following me on LinkedIn, follow my profile, and hit the bell icon, right? Or whatever that's called, right? The notification bell. If you don't, you will miss some of the most important things I send out. So just push that bell notification. It's right underneath the banner on my profile. All right, let's get rocking and rolling with talking about what are SAP opportunities and why you should care. One thing to remember is that I'm here to teach you the one thing you should be paying attention to, the most important thing. As a coach, my job is not to teach you everything. You don't need to know everything. I like to say, forget about the FAR. If you're not making money yet, then you don't need to know the FAR. You need to know the FAR once you made a sale. Otherwise, we spend time trying to understand the tax law and how to report all our earnings without having ever earned any money. Let's first make you money, and then you can learn everything else, right? And so for me, I like taking a big chunk of information. We call it 24 in 1, 24 hours worth of content and shoving it down into one. In this case, it's down into 30 minutes. But so the first thing is SAP opportunities, stands for Simplified Acquisition Procedures. This is just the way that the government buys. You can go look at the FAR and see the language behind it. But basically it means opportunities that are 200, or requirements is what the government calls it. Requirements that are $250,000 or less, that's what they expect, theoretically should be completely reserved for small businesses. All sorts of exceptions all the time. But basically, if it's under $250,000, of course it should be done by a small business. And so that's what the government tries to do, is to put as many of these out there. And it's a great way for them to be building the supplier base out there as well. When you go in, and I'll show you this in a minute, often these simplified acquisition procedure opportunities, there's got to be an easier way for me to say that, like SAP opportunities. They're often quotes compared to RFPs where it's requesting a proposal of 10 or 25 or 100 pages. The idea of these quotes means that the government wants to reduce the burden on you. Sometimes it can be just oral. You just tell them what it costs and they'll do it. Other times it's a single page quote, but they want to reduce the burden on themselves from analyzing too much information for a pretty minimal purchase, right? It's not a wise use of their time, but they also want to make it easy for small businesses who are just getting started, who are good at what they do, but just getting started in the federal space, get in without too much paperwork, too much lift, etc. One of the last things I put down here is that simplified acquisition procedure opportunities, SAP opportunities, these low threshold opportunities are perfect for getting past performances in an agency, getting started in an agency. The reason, one of the biggest reasons, is because the size of the contract is so small that they can look at any particular small business and go, well, you can handle that, right? The bigger it gets, the more risk the government's worried about. So $1 million or $10 million, it starts getting a little scarier and scarier. The risk increases. But when it's a smaller contract, it's pretty easy for the government to manage that, pretty easy for them to align it to your experience. But it is one of the quickest ways to get prime contracts because there's not a lot of competition. And for the most part, you don't have any competition from the big companies. And when I say big in this case, I mean companies like, let's say, 50 million and higher, not just the $1 billion ones. The second thing, and this is really, really helpful for a lot of the customers I work with, for example, who are not in the Army, but trying to get in the Army, it's a great way to get your first 2 or 3 contracts within a new agency. When you use a SAP opportunity, you're getting in fast, you're learning the agency, maybe getting clearances, et cetera. So keep that in mind. But just summarizing what are SAP opportunities, they're opportunities that are below $250,000 or less, and for the most part, set completely aside for small businesses to compete on. And often there's opportunities that aren't even competed, like no one even shows up. And so we'll talk more about that as we go forward. So I'm going to dive in to a browser in a second. I'm going to show you how to find these opportunities or how I find these. And remember, this is only a 30-minute training. So I'm not going to give you a ton, but I am going to go right in and try to just point out what I'm looking at. A lot of simplified acquisition procedure opportunities come out on various contract vehicles, BPAs, etc. I'm not here to teach you about that today. I might teach it a different day or in a master class. I'm actually thinking about doing a free master class on simplified acquisition procedure opportunities, right? How do you break into an agency using SAP opportunities? And if you're interested in that, just put SAP masterclass in the chat. And if I get enough interest, I'll create a free course on that, just how to get started on using the SAP opportunities. Okay, so there's three main ways that I want to talk about, and one way I love. So the first way you can find SAP opportunities is just go into SAM. These are live, basically. And for the most part, SAM only has opportunities that are over $25,000. And so if it's over $25,000, it has to be in SAM. Sometimes there might be smaller ones, but for the most part, it's at that level, right? So what it's telling me and telling you is that SAM does not have all of them, but it does have some. And so we'll go in and look at that for a few minutes. And then the second way, and I'm putting these in kind of the order I might go in, right? The second way is long-range acquisition forecast. A simple way to find simplified acquisition procedure opportunities is to go into long-range acquisition forecast that almost every agency makes very publicly available, is to find opportunities that are $250,000 or below. If it says $250,000 to $500,000, it's probably not a SAP opportunity, but you can look in and see what opportunities they might have listed. Every agency is different, and so you'll have to figure this out. You have to pick a primary agency before you start going into SAM or the long-range acquisition forecast or other tools. That way you can narrow down your search. The third tool that you want to be looking at, and this is looking at expired contracts, or excuse me, awarded contracts that are going to expire, is FPDS.gov. And we'll go into FPDS as well today really quick, but FPDS is where all contracts are listed for the most part. All contracts are listed, and so this is where you can find opportunities from 0 to 250,000 in that range, and I'll show you literally what I'm talking about. And that's a great place to find opportunities where you look at them and go, oh, I wish I had won that, right? SAM is about, oh, I want to win that, and FPDS is, I wish I had won that. So we'll look at that and talk about it. Number 4 about where I can find SAP opportunities, and this is my all-time favorite for anything in government sales, is relationships. The more relationships you build out there with teaming partners in industry or with government personnel, the more chance you're going to hear about opportunities, whether they're SAP opportunities or other opportunities. And so you want to continuously build relationships. I've done a ton of training about relationships, how to get them started, how to find them, how to build them, right? How to maintain them and have weekly or bi-weekly meetings, right? And so you want to look at my previous training, just find it on LinkedIn, my LinkedIn profile. You see a whole list. We've done 400 plus trainings in the last 2 years come March 22nd. And you have access to those, and many of them teach you how to build a relationship. But if you have relationships, you really increase your likelihood of hearing about opportunities. So let's go ahead and dive over to some of these tools for a few minutes and just look at them. And I got to watch my time because I get lost in these tools because I love them. First thing I just wanted to point out, by the way, if you haven't gone to our website, go to our website. We got a lot of good information out there. Right here are some directories you should be downloading if you haven't, but that's not what I came here to talk to you about. First off, when you use any of these tools, remember they all have help tools, right? So FPDS, I'm going to show you that in a minute. It's got a whole guide, and in that guide, it tells you how to use the search criteria that I'm going to show you. I'll show you very fast, but here's 257 pages of how to use a tool. The reason I'm an expert is not because I was born with government contracting chops, right? It's because I read documents. It's because I have experience, obviously. But I read documents like this. I go, how should I do this? And I don't even just read them one time. I literally am reading this before I come in to talk with you to make sure I'm teaching you February 2024 guidance, right? And not 2023 or 2022, because I've been doing this a while. The other one is inside of GSA. For SAM, you've got the same kind of thing. They have all this training and help activity, and you'll see in a minute that I'm going to pull up. Let me just zoom this in 1 second. I'm going to pull up in SAM some notices, but you'll notice I'll go after the combined synopsis, solicitations, and generally this is where they're doing most of the SAP opportunities. Again, a brief training here. Solicitations, though, is where they're looking typically for a bid or response. They're looking for you to respond to a proposal. So when you come in, you start looking at all the different options you have on your tool. You start getting more comfortable, and you start, getting frustrated. You stop getting frustrated with the tools because you start mastering them. So let's go into sam.gov really quick. And again, I'm going to go pretty fast. So I'm just coming over here to the search bar, and I'm just going to show you. Let me zoom in really quick. I'll zoom in while I'm looking at it, and I'll zoom back out. First thing I do is I say search only in the contract opportunity domains, right? It's just an important place for me to go. Then I'm scrolling down. I'm going to come back to keywords in a minute, but let's just come down here to notice type. And on notice type, I talked about combined synopsis and solicitation. That's where you find quotes, and we'll look at that in a second. The last thing I want to just pull for the first stab is I want responses, let's say in the next 3 months, right? So theoretically, actually, let's just make it smaller. Next 30 days, so next month, right? And I'm going to zoom back out. And when you see this, you'll see that there's 200 or 2,000, there's 3,000 results in here. That's a lot. Now you start filtering it down to whatever you want. I personally hate NAICS codes and PCS codes because first, they're not always used consistently by the government. Second, they're too big, right? I really like narrowing it down by keywords and or just browsing completely. And let me show you what I mean. So I got a customer who's doing, let's see if we can find any American, let me change this to exact phrase. So I'm going to say American Sign Language. So all I did was type in the search and hit enter, right? And as soon as I did, there's these 2 opportunities. These are opportunities that when I look at them, they're due at a certain point here, and I can go in and take a look at them, right? And I can see whether they're useful to me. But I instantly was able to find these 2 opportunities. Really quickly, let me show you something else I do with opportunities when I find them, right? So if I click on this, and I just open it in another tab really quick, and I know I'm talking to everybody at different levels, so you might be at a different level than others. By the way, today's a good day for networking. There's over 400 people in the training live. That is a good day. These people are all ready for you to connect. Not all, right? I mean, but find the options. If you get 4 or 5 connections in a training, that's a good day. Sorry, that's just, I saw that and I'm pretty happy myself. So if I come down here, the other thing I'm really looking for, let me zoom down really quick. Sorry. Sorry for the speedy stuff. But if I come in here, right, I have a point of contact here now. Maybe I want to do business at the Department of Veterans Affairs. I certainly want to do American Sign Language, right? And so here I've got a point of contact. And I bet if I go in, this person is going to be a contract specialist. They might be a contract officer, but there's a pretty good chance they're a contract specialist out there doing a lot of this activity, right? Well, now I have their name, their phone number, their email, and I can reach out and try to set up a meeting that says, hey, I'm interested in working together. I can actually look at this opportunity and decide how I want to respond. In this document, they talk about responding to opportunities, right? Let me come back on track because I only got 9 minutes left. But I came into SAM and I just said, let me search. Something else I do in SAM that I really like to do, I just want to show you, is I'm very comfortable scrolling. If I scroll through a lot of opportunities, not 3,000, but if I scroll through a lot, I'm able to find ones that maybe I would have missed because the government mislabeled it. Yes, the government makes mistakes. I'm not knocking them. I make mistakes sometimes too. Not often. But I make mistakes, they make mistakes. It's better not to miss one. And so here, I know I want to work with, let's say, the Department of Commerce. And so I can click right here on the federal organizations, and I can come in here and just type in commerce. And I'm going to choose commerce. I'll zoom back out, and inside of commerce, there's 18. So there's only 18 synopsis and solicitations in here. It'll take me 2 seconds to scroll through and go, are any of these ones I'm interested in? For example, this one, I know my customer's not interested in, but they are in the agency and they are an 8A. And there's another company that is doing this exact type of 5G network. Maybe I could just make an introduction and put them together. But it took me 2 seconds to look at that. 80% of what's there, I don't want, but that's okay. The whole point is to find what you do want. All right, I know I'm moving really fast, but this is an intro to it, but I want to get you to FPDS. By the way, let me try one more, commerce and long, I can't type, long range acquisition. Here's the federal acquisition for Department of Commerce. Takes me a second for my browser to scroll through. It's just taking a second. By the way, if you have questions about what I'm doing, put it in the chat so I can look at it. Oh, this is hilarious. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. This is not intentional. But this is this is our long range acquisition forecast. It's a blog that we have. And so if you're looking for other ones, you can find it right here. But what I'm looking for is just this guy. So if I come in here, I can see the current forecast. And I just wanted to bring you right here to the top and show you there's hundreds of rows in this spreadsheet, right? There's literally thousands, but many of them don't matter. Let me just close that stuff. But if I come over here, right, first off, you can see that there's points of contact in here. So I can find people if I'm looking for it. And if I come over to the left here, here's the estimated range. See where it says 0 to 250K, this row there? That is a signal to me, right? It's not guaranteed, but that's a signal to me that that's a simplified acquisition opportunity compared to these ones are starting to go outside the simplified acquisition. Doesn't mean I wouldn't go after it, but it's not what we're talking about today. So all I did is went to the forecast and I'm looking on size, and then I would reach out to that person and talk to them. Let me close this, and I want to show you on the search on FPDS, and I'm going to do more trainings on this because I can see I'm already kind of running out of time. But inside of FPDS, you can search for several things. Let me just show you how I would search for simplified acquisition within FPDS in 2 seconds, right? So these are all the drop-down filters. Remember, there's that guide, and I might put that into the comments later that says FPDS guide. But if I come down here, first thing I'm looking for, just in the order that it's at, I want to say, show me only things that are 250,000 or less. And then the next thing I want to do is add another field in here. Let me come over here. Got to pause. Okay, so there's like a bazillion opportunities that are under 250,000. What I was trying to do is refine this result by date signed. So date signed, I'm just going to say 10/1/2022 to today. Fortunately, I did this search once before. And so now I just went down to 7 million. This is like 8 million opportunities, right? And then what I'm looking for is I want to find simplified acquisition. And so there's this field called solicitation. Where is it? Solicitation procedures. That's the one you want to track on for a second. And so solicitation procedures, what I'm looking for is the word simplified. This will tell me that how they solicited this opportunity was using the simplified acquisition. When I did that, I came down to 1,331,597 opportunities, right? So I can keep scrolling it down further. If I show you one more advanced search activity, maybe I'm looking for keyword, but instead of keyword that might include a company name, here what I'm looking for is the description requirement. So inside the description requirement, there are words. And let's say I do workforce development, right? I can just type in workforce, hit search. Let me zoom back out. And I went down to 56. So I just took 10 plus million to 1 million or so down to 56. You can do this same thing. You can leave off workforce and instead say, I want to find Department of Commerce opportunities. The idea of this for me, when I go in, if I sorted it by action, obligation, the size, I can come in and scroll down and go, oh, look at this motion picture. And hopefully this one works for me. I'm just going to click on it. And here is Daniel Kristen or Daniel Walker. I don't know how to say it. But here's 2 people, right? Here's 2 people at the Social Security Administration that I can reach out to. And I can talk to them about maybe this opportunity, or I can talk to them about simplified acquisition. I noticed you did some of that. Can I talk to you? How do you guys do it? How do I find more opportunities? How do I get on your list? We want to be able to talk to them about it. So the time's going pretty fast, and that's a quick demo. You can go back and watch it. If you want me to do that as a course where it's a master class, let's say 90 minutes, let me know. I'll create a free course at some point and throw it on our website. Here's, in the last couple of minutes, I just want to talk to you about how I would pursue these opportunities. Many agencies have simplified acquisition procedure guides. And so go and reach out to a small business professional or contracting officer. Ask them for that guide. It is a great way to start a relationship, start a conversation. Just say, do you have a SAP guide, right? A simplified acquisition procedure guide. Then I would be asking that KO I saw in FPDS, or if I'm going into commerce, for example, I would talk to the small business professional. Either one of these people, I would ask them for an intro call to talk about simplified acquisition and just how you do it. Can I get 10 or 15 minutes? That's what I would be doing. And number 4, I would be asking at a vendor outreach session, How do you do SAP procedure or SAP opportunities? How can I learn more about them? How can I get on the radar so when you're looking for a company like mine, I'm right there for you. When you're in FPDS or SAM, wherever you're at, looking at opportunities that you wish you won or you want to win, build a target list in a spreadsheet or a CRM tool of those contract officers that are awarding or participating in opportunities that were awarded under the Simplified Acquisition Procedure. Now you're going to build a list of 100 or 200 people that you can start talking to, and then populate your pipeline with opportunities you see from the long range acquisition forecast or in FPDS or even SAM, so that you can start pursuing the ones that are truly a fit for you. Don't go all over crazy. Be very, very focused and then go after them. Remember from today's training, here's what I want you to do. Go ask the government for their Simplified Acquisition Guide. Learn how they do it and also get the conversation started. Find in FPDS 20 opportunities you wish you won, bring them over into your pipeline or into a spreadsheet or whatever, and start reaching out to those contracting officers that awarded it. And if you want that masterclass, if you want me to put the effort in to do more of this, and I'll create a free SAP course, just put SAP course in the chat. As you move forward for all of us, just remember, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. Same as the Simplified Acquisition. I will see you in the next training. If you're interested in working with us, you can find out here